So what questions should you ask yourself when you're trying to decide whether or not you're ready to start a nonprofit? We're going to go through that today. Let's get into it. Hey y'all, this is Tiffany with Boss on the Budget. I help new and small nonprofits get up and running. If you need help with your nonprofit, don't forget to subscribe to my channel because I drop a video every week. So I'm going to just talk about some things you should ask yourself to decide whether or not you're really ready to be a nonprofit. Because starting a nonprofit is no joke. All you got to do is round up a couple of nonprofit founders that just got started within the last 5 years, and you'll get an earful about how difficult it can be and also how isolating it can be. So I want to kind of do these videos to demystify the process and to help you really understand whether or not this is something that's going to work for you. So here are 3 easy questions you can ask yourself when you're deciding whether or not a nonprofit is for you. So first question, are you prepared to recruit and manage a strong board of directors? The biggest mistake by far I see nonprofit founders making is assuming that they can do it all on their own. Or they get their family and their friends to be on the board so they can have somebody on the paperwork because they think, well, I don't need them. I can just do this myself. And then they get up and running and they get overwhelmed and burnt out really, really quickly. And I need you to understand that whether or not you think you need one, you need a board. Whether or not you feel like you can trust a board, you need a board. The reality is the structure of a nonprofit requires you to have a board of directors. That's just what it is. So it's not designed for you to do everything yourself because you cannot do it. It's not humanly possible to sustain yourself doing all the work because there's a board level, kind of that administrative stuff that they have to do and the governing, and then there's the staff level and the day-to-day operations and dealing with your clients. Then there's the fundraising, and then there's the regulatory stuff. It's a lot. And so don't go into the process assuming that you can do it, even for a little bit. You need to kind of talk to yourself and say, this is the vision I'm putting in place. I need to have the right people to do this with me. And I understand that it's scary to put your vision in the hands of other people because once you invite a board into the process, you all share the same level of responsibility and authority for the organization. So I get how scary that is, but I'm just trying to tell you it is what it is. So instead of spending your energy worrying about that, spend your energy recruiting the right people. So don't go into the process where I just need a board so I can have a name, or I just want some rich people on my board. Don't do that. Really think about, who do I want? Who are the right voices, perspectives, personalities that can sit at this table and really push this vision forward? So spend all your energy and time on that and worry less about trusting whether or not they're going to take the organization from you, because the reality is you can't do it without a board. The second question to ask yourself, are you prepared to constantly fundraise? So what you should do before you start your nonprofit is come up with a fundraising plan, a revenue plan, whatever you want to call it, but you should know where your money is going to come from. And where your money is coming from is dictating the activities you're going to do as a nonprofit founder. Now, I'll just say this. There are a lot of ways that nonprofits can make money. You can make money by having government contracts and grants, right? And you don't have to do a lot of fundraising per se to support that. You can make money by selling a product or service or charging for your services, and you don't necessarily have to fundraise. But there's a large portion of nonprofits that do have to fundraise. And so you need to ask yourself, am I prepared to do that work, to do what it takes to put myself out there, to always talk about the organization, to be constantly advocating for the organization and constantly priming people, warming them up to want to give and support your organization. As a founder and as the board, a large part of your responsibility should be fundraising, and you have to get that in your heads early on. And you have to do that because you don't want it to be intimidating for you or anyone else. It's just that you're communicating to people that there's a need and they can help address that need. That's what fundraising is. I like to think about it in simple terms. So you're just saying this needs to be addressed and we need you to partner with us through your resources to make it happen. And there are a lot of ways you can do that and you can, be successful in fundraising. One way I suggest in the beginning to make money is to use a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign. Go ahead and look in the description box below. There's a free worksheet that I have that outlines a peer-to-peer fundraising strategy. And if you need help coming up with that strategy on your own, you can use my workbook to help you design that strategy for yourself. But use that strategy to kind of build on the networks of the people you already know so they can ask the people they know and associate with for money to support your organization. And that's a great way to get started with your fundraising and to build off of that. But just be clear that whatever you have to do in the beginning, a large part of it is going to be fundraising and communicating and marketing so that you can attract donors. And the last question you need to ask yourself is, am I ready for all of the administrative and regulatory requirements that comes along with being a nonprofit? If you've watched any of my videos, I've walked through some of those requirements in a bunch of different videos, but I'm just going to quickly go through some of the things you need to be mindful of. First, at the state level, you have to establish yourself as a nonprofit business, and more than likely, you'll have to do an annual filing, and in that annual filing, you may have to dictate how much money you've made or some other requirements. It depends on the state. You also have to apply for charitable solicitation, which means if you want to ask people for money, you have to apply in the state and pay the fee to do that. And you have to do that in every state you're going to fundraise in. And there's some states where you don't even have to actively fundraise. If someone gives to you from the state expects you to apply and pay their fee. And so there's a lot to keep up with that. There's things around property tax exemptions and sales tax exemptions that you have to deal with and paperwork you need to file at the state level. Then when we go up to the federal level, you have to worry about the IRS and the requirements around conflict of interest and making sure you have all the right policies in place to make sure that you've structured your board in the way that they expect, to make sure that you track and account for your financing and your income and expenses the right way, to make sure that you file your 990 tax form on an annual basis so you don't lose your status. And that's just a minimum, okay? That's just a minimum of the things you have to do as a nonprofit. So people don't realize all that's involved with a nonprofit when they start, because on first glance, it looks kind of simple and really easy to do it. And, honestly, you can get a book and read how to start your 501c3 and get it done. But see, the back end is what gets you, right? You don't realize that once you start your nonprofit, there are all these rules and things that you don't know what you don't know. So how do you, track your meeting minutes for your board? How are you supposed to store that information? What policies are you supposed to have in place? There's a lot to it. And so what I want you to know is you got to be prepared mentally, and then also you got to be ready to do it. You got to do your research. You got to make sure you build up the knowledge and the skill set to make sure that you don't inadvertently cause an issue or lose your tax exempt status or any of that. All right, so I hope that helped. Don't forget to visit me at my website if you have any questions. You can see me at www.bossonabudget.com, and also check out the description box because I have some goodies down there for you below. And I will see you in the next video.